On a warm summer morning in July 1991, the Thompson family set out on a road trip that was supposed to be filled with laughter, photographs, and memories. David and Linda Thompson, along with their two children, 14-year-old Sarah and 10-year-old Michael, packed their blue station wagon and left their suburban home in British Columbia. Their plan was simple, a week-long drive through the Canadian countryside, stopping at lakes and national parks along the way. It was the kind of family adventure that promised joy. But they never came back. Neighbors recalled seeing the Thompsons loading their car, waving goodbye, and driving off with excited smiles. Somewhere along the road, however, the family simply vanished. They missed their scheduled check-in with relatives, failed to return to work and school, and left their house untouched, as if frozen in time. Police were alerted quickly. Search teams scoured highways, back roads, and tourist stops. Helicopters flew over forests and rivers, while officers interviewed anyone who might have spotted the family's distinctive car. Yet no trace was ever found. Not the car, not the family, not even a single belonging. For weeks, the disappearance dominated headlines across Canada. "Family vanishes on road trip," blared the newspapers, capturing the imagination and fear of the nation. Rumors swirled. Had they been victims of a random crime, an accident, or something far stranger? When the months turned into years, the Thompson case was quietly shelved as another unsolved mystery. Their faces faded from the news, but for relatives and investigators, the unanswered question remained: how could a family of 4 disappear without leaving a single clue? The investigation into the disappearance of the Thompson family began immediately. Police knew time was critical in missing persons cases, but the scale of this mystery made it unusually complex. 4 people and an entire vehicle had seemingly vanished into thin air. Authorities first focused on the family's planned route. Witnesses reported seeing a blue station wagon resembling the Thompsons near a gas station 2 hours from their home. A clerk remembered a woman with 2 children buying snacks. But when investigators checked the station's old security tapes, the footage was missing. Either the system had failed, or the evidence was gone. Another tip came from a truck driver who claimed he had seen a car swerving late at night along a mountain road. Search teams swept the cliffs and ravines, hoping to find signs of an accident. But no skid marks, debris, or broken guardrails were discovered. The road offered no clues. As pressure mounted, police considered darker possibilities. Some theorized the family had staged their disappearance, perhaps fleeing debts or personal troubles. But investigators found no evidence of financial distress or marital conflict. Their home was in order, their bank accounts untouched, and their passports still inside a desk drawer. The case grew more unsettling by the day. Flyers with the family's smiling faces spread across provinces, but calls to the tip line mostly led to dead ends. Some claimed to have seen them camping, others swore they spotted the car in distant towns. Each report raised hope, only to collapse under scrutiny. By the end of 1991, the search had stalled. Without a car, a body, or belongings, detectives had little to go on. The Thompsons had simply disappeared, as if the highway itself had swallowed them whole. As the 1990s moved forward, the Thompson family's disappearance slowly slipped from the front pages. At first, the case had gripped the entire nation, but with no fresh leads and no evidence, interest faded. Other stories filled the news cycle, and the Thompson name became just another entry in Canada's growing list of unsolved cases. For investigators, the frustration was immense. They had checked every possible scenario: accident, crime, even voluntary disappearance. But without the family's vehicle, there was no starting point. Police files sat on shelves, filled with unanswered questions and faded photographs of the smiling family of 4. For the surviving relatives, however, the pain never dulled. Each birthday and holiday was a reminder of the empty chairs around the table. Sarah and Michael's cousins grew up, went to college, started families of their own, while the children's fate remained frozen in 1991. David's parents died without ever knowing what happened to their son and his family. Occasionally, the case would resurface in local media, usually on anniversaries. Small features would run with headlines like, "15 years since the Thompson family vanished." These brief stories reignited speculation but offered no new answers. Rumors spread in whispers that the family had been taken by someone they met on the road, or that they had driven into an uncharted part of the wilderness. Others spoke of lakes and rivers along their route, bodies of water that had never been fully searched, capable of hiding entire vehicles for decades. By the early 2000s, the case was considered cold, but the silence would not last forever. In 2006, a shocking discovery at the bottom of a lake would drag the Thompson mystery back into the spotlight. In the summer of 2006, 15 years after the Thompsons vanished, two fishermen on Lake Clearwater in British Columbia noticed something unusual. The lake had receded due to an especially dry season, exposing areas that were normally hidden beneath the water. As they paddled closer to shore, a glint of metal caught their eyes beneath the surface. Curious, they contacted local authorities, who quickly brought in divers to investigate. What they found stunned everyone. At the bottom of the lake, partially buried in silt, lay the rusted shell of a blue station wagon. The license plate, though corroded, was still legible. It matched the Thompson family's car. When the news broke, shockwaves spread across Canada. Headlines read, "Thompson family car found after 15 years." Television crews gathered at the lake as investigators carefully hauled the vehicle from the depths. Mud and weeds clung to the frame, the windows shattered, the once shiny paint now eaten away by rust. Inside, forensic teams made a chilling discovery. Remnants of clothing, children's shoes, and personal belongings were found scattered within the vehicle. A faded map, still barely readable, was stuck to the dashboard. But there was no sign of human remains. The discovery brought both relief and anguish to the surviving relatives. At last, there was proof the family had not simply vanished into thin air. Their journey had ended here. Yet the absence of bodies left the most haunting question unanswered. What exactly had happened on that road in 1991 that sent the Thompsons into the depths of Lake Clearwater? The discovery of the Thompson family's car at the bottom of Lake Clearwater reignited one of Canada's most haunting mysteries. For days, the story dominated national headlines. News anchors replayed footage from 1991, showing the family smiling as they packed their station wagon, now juxtaposed with the rusted shell being pulled from the water. Across British Columbia, communities gathered in shock. Candlelight vigils were held, and old classmates of Sarah and Michael came forward, recalling how the children had vanished just before the school year. For many, the recovery of the car was both heartbreaking and strangely comforting. Proof that the family's fate had not been imagined, that they had truly existed on that long-ago road. Theories began to swirl once again. Some believed the Thompsons had simply lost control of their vehicle, plunging into the lake during a late-night drive. The area near Clearwater was known for narrow roads with poor guardrails, especially in the early 1990s. A tragic accident seemed plausible. But others doubted that explanation. Why had extensive searches in 1991 failed to detect the car in the lake? Sonar sweeps had been conducted, yet nothing was reported. Had the car been missed, or had it been moved later? And why were there no bodies inside the vehicle after 15 years underwater? Forensic experts promised answers, but as investigators combed through the car, questions only deepened. The belongings inside suggested the family had been traveling normally, but subtle details hinted at something far more unsettling. The mystery was no longer just about a disappearance. It had become a chilling puzzle of accident, cover-up, or something darker hidden beneath the waters of Lake Clearwater. When forensic teams began examining the Thompson family's station wagon, they expected clear answers. Instead, what they found only deepened the mystery. The first discovery was the vehicle itself. Though the car was heavily rusted, Investigators noticed that the driver's side window had been rolled down before it sank. This suggested that at least one person inside had been conscious as the vehicle entered the water. Yet there were no human remains, no bones, no signs of anyone trapped inside. Experts explained that after 15 years underwater, decomposition was possible, but the total absence of skeletal remains was unusual. Inside the car, investigators recovered several personal items. A small backpack with school supplies was found on the back seat, along with Michael's favorite baseball cap, still faintly recognizable under layers of silt. On the passenger seat lay a faded road map. Strangely, the map was marked with a red pen, circling a route that didn't match the family's planned itinerary. No one in the Thompson family was known to have used such markings, raising suspicions that someone else had handled it. Even more unsettling was what wasn't there. Key items the family had packed for the trip, a camera, camping equipment, and Linda's purse, were missing entirely. Investigators couldn't determine if they had been lost in the lake or removed before the car entered the water. The findings complicated everything. Was this a tragic accident? Or had the family been forced off the road and into the lake? If foul play was involved, then who had circled that strange route on the map? And why? As investigators pieced together the evidence from the Thompson family's car, whispers of foul play grew louder. The missing belongings, the strange red markings on the map, and the absence of bodies were details that no longer fit neatly into the theory of a tragic accident. Attention quickly turned to reports from 1991 that had been largely dismissed at the time. Several locals recalled seeing a blue station wagon pulled over on the shoulder of a remote highway near Lake Clearwater, hours before the family was last heard from. Witnesses described another vehicle parked close by, a dark pickup truck with no license plates visible. The original investigation had logged these reports, but without evidence, they were set aside. Now, with the car found in the lake, detectives wondered if the Thompsons had crossed paths with someone dangerous on that lonely stretch of road. Police began revisiting old suspects. One name stood out: Robert Hayes, a drifter known to travel through British Columbia in the early 1990s. Hayes had a history of theft and violence, and in 1991 he was questioned briefly about the disappearance, but released for lack of evidence. Rumors suggested he had been seen near Clearwater around the same time the family vanished. The theory of foul play ignited the media. Headlines shifted from "Family car found in lake" to "Were the Thompsons forced off the road?" For the surviving relatives, it was a chilling prospect. After 15 years of silence, they now faced the possibility that their loved ones hadn't died in an accident, but had been victims of a crime that remained hidden beneath the surface of the lake. With renewed focus on the Thompson case, investigators turned to modern forensic technology to re-examine the evidence. Soil and sediment samples from the car revealed something unexpected: traces of motor oil and fuel that didn't match the station wagon. Experts suggested this residue may have come from another vehicle in close contact with the Thompsons' car before it entered the water, raising the possibility that it had been deliberately pushed. Meanwhile, old witnesses began to resurface. A retired park ranger came forward, admitting he had long been troubled by what he saw in the summer of 1991. He recalled spotting tire tracks near a remote service road that led toward Lake Clearwater. The tracks appeared to belong to two vehicles, side by side, one set veering suddenly toward the lake. At the time, his report had been buried under dozens of tips. Now, it took on a chilling new weight. Detectives also uncovered a forgotten police note about Robert Hayes, the drifter once suspected. Weeks after the Thompsons vanished, Hayes had been arrested in another province for car theft. Among his belongings was a road atlas with multiple routes circled in red ink, eerily similar to the markings found on the map in the Thompsons' car. The evidence wasn't yet definitive, but a pattern was emerging. Theories of an accident were fading, replaced by the disturbing possibility that the family had been followed, confronted, and forced into the lake. For the first time in 15 years, investigators felt they were edging closer to the truth. But the next revelation would not only confirm their darkest suspicions, it would shock the entire country. As investigators dug deeper into Robert Hayes's past, they uncovered a lead that would change the entire case. In 1992, just 1 year after the Thompson family vanished, Hayes had pawned several items at a shop in Alberta. The records, long forgotten in dusty archives, revealed something chilling. Among the items were a woman's leather purse, a camera, and a set of children's binoculars. When shown to surviving relatives, the descriptions matched belongings the Thompsons had taken on their road trip. Linda Thompson's sister recalled giving her that exact purse as a birthday gift. The family also confirmed that Sarah had carried a pair of small binoculars for bird watching. The evidence was damning. Detectives tracked down the pawn shop owner, now elderly, who remembered Hayes clearly. He said Hayes had arrived with the items in the back of a pickup truck, claiming they came from a car he'd found abandoned. At the time, nothing seemed unusual, and the goods were sold off without question. Even more incriminating was a recovered photograph from the pawn shop's old records. It showed Linda's purse with her initials, LT, stamped on the inside flap. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. With this discovery, investigators finally had a tangible link between Hayes and the missing family. Forensic experts confirmed the car had likely been forced into the lake, and now they had evidence showing Hayes had handled the family's belongings after the disappearance. The puzzle pieces were finally falling into place. After 15 years of silence, the Thompson mystery was no longer an accident. It was a crime, and the truth was about to come out. Armed with the new evidence, investigators officially declared the Thompson case a homicide. The pawned belongings tied Robert Hayes directly to the family, and forensic analysis of the car suggested it had been forced into Lake Clearwater. But bringing Hayes to justice was impossible, because by the time the truth surfaced, he was already dead. Records revealed that Hayes had died in 1999 during a fire at a remote cabin in northern Alberta. Locals described him as a drifter who kept to himself, occasionally working odd jobs and often vanishing for weeks into the wilderness. His death had been ruled accidental, caused by faulty wiring. For investigators, it meant the only man who could have answered the haunting questions was gone forever. Still, the case was closed. Police concluded that Hayes had likely encountered the Thompsons on the road, possibly targeting them for robbery. When confronted, he forced them off the highway and into the lake, later scavenging their belongings. How he managed to leave no bodies behind remains uncertain, but experts believe the currents of the lake and decades underwater may have scattered remains beyond recovery. For the surviving relatives, the revelation was bittersweet. After 15 years of silence, they finally had answers, but no trial, no confession, and no closure from seeing justice served. At a memorial held by Lake Clearwater, family and neighbors gathered, placing flowers and photographs along the shore. The rusted station wagon became a grim reminder, a symbol of lives stolen and mysteries that can remain buried for decades. Though the water had hidden the truth, it could not erase it. The story of the Thompsons had finally been told,